What is up, my friends, and welcome to the UFL Week in Review, one of the longest-running UFL podcasts in the universe. I'm your host, Mark Perry, bringing you the latest and most exciting updates from the world of the United Football League. In today's episode, 64 days away from the UFL kickoff, we're diving into the massive influx of player signings that have agreed to terms. We'll discuss Dwayne The Rock Johnson's influential role, an optimistic view of the league, and his position at the TKO Board. That was big news this week. Plus, don't miss the scoop on Chad Ochocinco's potential comeback with the Memphis Showboats. Stay tuned for our notes section at the end. We're talking about maybe when the rules will be coming out. We'll have a quick shout outs and some of your emails as updates on the UFL News app and so much more. It's a packed show, so let's get started.
The USFL is in business.
The XFL is underway.
There's no doubt spring just got stronger.
Over 120 players have agreed to terms with the UFL. We have it broken down in detail. So over the past couple days, you've seen these announcements basically every night. Now, these are players that come to terms with the UFL, meaning they have signed their contract to play in the UFL in 2024. The USFL side is smaller because of the UFLPA, and its players already coming to terms before the merger. I think some of these guys already signed 2-year deals or were already part of another deal. You don't know what was going on behind the scenes. So that's why the UFL side of thing, the USFL side of thing is a little bit smaller. But you've seen all these player names before. Slade Bolden, we've talked about him. Houston Roughnecks, Stephen Dunbar, wide receiver. I mean, all of these names are fairly similar to what was there before. E.J. Perry, quarterback from Brown, signed with the Michigan Panthers. That was kind of some big news out there as well. But then when you get into the USFL division had 32 players signing. The XFL division had 89 players. And you could see, I mean, especially with like the Houston Roughnecks, they basically keeping their players from the Houston Gamblers. So you can kind of see why. But the XFL division had 89 players. A lot, here the Arlington Renegades, a lot of these guys that we already knew. Donald Payne is returning. Tyler Vaughn's wide receiver. Javonta Payton. Devin Darrington, running back. Morgan Ellison, running back. So, I mean, they got a stack as well. DC Defenders, my DC Defenders have TJ Barnes returning. That was a big one. Jalen McClendon, of course, is on the list. Matthew McCrane, DeJohn Neal, DB Santos Ramirez. So a lot of their defensive players are coming back. St. Louis Battlehawks, Marcel Aitman, who was thought to be one of the top wide receivers, but kind of didn't pan out. Hopefully he was injury plagued. He'll be back. Darius Shepard, we know that name as well. I mean, they have a lot of players down here. Stephen Mitchell, wide receiver. Jake Sutherland, tight end, returns. San Antonio Brahmas, they have John Trey Kirkland. He returns. We've already talked about that. And John Lovett, Elise Mack, all these players from the draft. Nothing to Brycene Aline, running back, Delaware State. Also Corey Latimer. I mean, they're going to have a good team as well. Reed Sinnott, but of course, then there was a trade for that. So you can kind of see these players have been listed on the active rosters. So that's what we have going on. We'll get a lot more of these signings as the next couple of days go by because training camp starts February 24th. So The Rock made some big news this week, and he's been doing the interview circuit. Why? Well, because he is now a board director of TKO. He joins the board. So there's some big news. So he was appointed to the TKO board. He gets to keep everything about the Rock brand. They've also, TKO secured a 10-year deal with Netflix for WWE Raw. And of course, but having Dwayne Johnson's role there, of course, elevates the UFL's international presence and everything, because a lot of this stuff is all about relationships. So, of course, the big press release is that he is now part of TKO Group Holdings. Who are they? Well, they own the WWE and they own the UFC. And so now they're all together. So that will be a big deal. They also secured a lucrative 10-year deal with Netflix to broadcast WWE Raw. Now, WWE Raw is the #1 show on cable, which tells you, I am telling you, and I've been telling my friends this, there is so much change going on. It's unreal. You have layoffs in the media world, whether it's print or digital. You have cable is just losing subscribers like crazy. If you've been following me podcasting, I've been talking about that for years. Now you have the number one show on cable leaving for streaming, which is just going, I mean, the havoc, the change that is among us is crazy right now. So that partnership is valued at $5 billion, and it's expected to enhance the presence of both the WWE, but by having Dwayne Johnson part of that is going to help the UFL. I mean, this is a guy that people want to do business with. So we all know his journey. So basically, this will help with the UFL. Because why? Because he was on ESPN talking about this merger, talking about wrestling. He was on First Take. And of course, they asked him about the UFL's potential. He said, quote, "We've officially merged leagues," and it wound up being, well, we'll see. Now, that was the part he was kind of like, well, we'll see, fingers crossed, how we do this spring. But I think it's going to work out. We've got a real shot with this now that we've merged the XFL, USFL merged together to make and create the UFL. Now, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get into it too much, but it wound up, well, we'll see. Fingers crossed we do this spring, I think, but I think it's going to work out. We've got a real shot with this. So you can see that kind of made me a little bit like, we'll see, fingers crossed. But I mean, I think that's kind of what they're going into is this is, and I've told you this before, read the tea leaves. This is a make or break year for this league. They're not going to sit around for the next 5 years and lose money. It needs to prove itself this season. And that comes down to now me and you. They've laid the groundwork. You want these players and coaches, you want to expand into your home cities. Well, this is the season that we have to do it. So he said, and we found great success with the past season with the XFL, USFL on their side, found some really great success too. Bottom line is, of course, then he talks about the 53-man roster, 50-player 54. So he emphasized the previous success of the XFL and USFL. He believes that the UFL, resulting in the strategic partnering, holds significant promise for the future, underlying the opportunity that it creates, of course, March 30th. But again, that part where it was like, wound up being, well, we'll see, fingers crossed, how we do this spring. So he's not super, I mean, he's optimistic clearly because he said we got a real shot at this, but it was interesting where he kind of how he really felt, but then kind of gave it that spin. But he said we got a real shot with this. And I think that is the truth. It is a real shot whether or not they can make this work. But again, like I've told you guys before, it comes down to us. So Fan Control Football had Terrell Owens, but what do you think about Chad Ochocinco playing in the UFL? Now he's taking a spot from a young guy, but I would certainly be interested. And the product needs eyeballs. So he expressed interest in joining the Memphis Showboats. So Chad Ochocinco, we all know him from the NFL, sparked excitement when he talked about wanting to join the UFL on Shannon Sharp's podcast. And then, which got people excited. So then Coach Don DeFilippo said, reached out to him on Twitter and said, I'm not calling it X, Twitter, and openly invited Johnson to connect. So showing enthusiasm, replied with he said, Coach Don, I love you and would be elated to lace him up and compete once again. You'll be hearing from me. So whether or not he follows through or not, of course, he's got a proven track record, but he's also 46 years old, years young. So he is younger than me. Let's put it that way. If you didn't know how old I was, I'm 49 years old. So he's going to lace it up. I think it would be great even just if they had him and then they cut him. I mean, but then having a veteran presence, and it would really bring interest. And you need some names here to kind of generate interest. I mean, he's probably going to ask for extra money and they're going to say no. And he's just going to be like, well, it's not worth it. But it would be cool to see him hit the field in the UFL. Definitely generate some buzz, which the league needs. Are you a fan of the XFL, USFL, and CFL football? Get ready to embrace your inner general manager with NewshubFantasy.com's fantasy football experience. NewshubFantasy.com offers you an unparalleled fantasy football platform bringing together fans of the XFL, USFL, and CFL football leagues. Compete in season-long fantasy with leagues up to 6 players. You can create your own for friends, or you can join an existing league. Draft your ideal team with our 7 active roster spots, including a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, flex, tight end, kicker, plus 3 bench spots. Show off your football knowledge and strategy and dominate your league. Our user-friendly interface makes it easy to manage with your team and get the latest news in your XFL or USFL or CFL leagues on the go. Plus, Newshub Fantasy offers mock drafts, pick'em games, and so much more all season long. So don't miss out on the action. Sign up now at newshubfantasy.com and become the ultimate football fantasy manager. All right, we are back with our quick hitting news and notes. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. We always appreciate that. So Panthers coach Mike Nolan was talking about the UFL evolution and rules next week. So this was part of the interesting thing. So he was on an interview with WRIF. And if you notice, a lot of the coaches have been out giving interviews as we build up towards the season. So they've been talking with the local stuff, and he was talking about a couple of things. So one of the two things that I thought was interesting that he said, one is he emphasized the importance of a gradual progression starting from basic steps and advancing steadily, a philosophy advocated by Daryl Johnson. Now, if you see, there is a lot less events going on. There's a lot less social media stuff. Like everything is bare bones. And because they're using the USFL's model, which is just slow and steady, he said, quote, I think they're starting the right way and kind of build it as Daryl Johnson has said, kind of start crawling, then get to walking, then get to jogging and running. That's the problem that the XFL did, but the USFL didn't do. And I think that their philosophy is correct. Let's start small and crawl, get bare bones. That's why I think stadium and as long as the stadiums are filled and do well, and I think and television ratings are good, and I think we will start to add more things as we go. This is the bare bones. We have to make it past this point to get to the next level, because if it doesn't work with bare bones, they're not going to cut anymore. It's just basically going to be done deal. So that was interesting that they had that. One of the other things he talked about also was the rule change. He said, within this week, I believe next week, we're supposed to get some of the rules because of the XFL and USFL different. So supposedly next week, the rules will be coming out. I think we will get more of that stuff next week. And he also talked about, I don't think he's talking about the XFL, the UFL thinking about doing this, but he had heard, because they were talking about the XFL versus USFL kickoff. And it sounds like they're going to keep the USFL kickoff perhaps, but that punting instead of kickoffs as another way. And he goes into detail that you definitely want to check out the interview, because he goes into detail about that. Also talks about he was semi-retired, coming back, and of course coaching with Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. We've got big games this week, so everybody will be tuned in on Sunday. It'll be good times there. So Michigan Panthers bring back quarterback EJ Perry. That was rumored that was out there by James Larson, but then came out to be true. So EJ Perry made his first USFL appearance last season, a must-win for the Panthers in the last game of the regular season. The game was against the divisional opponent, the Philadelphia Stars, in a win and you're in scenario. He was 12 of 23, 112 yards, and added 48 yards and 10 rushes and a rushing touchdown, and the Panthers defeated the Stars 23-20 to punch their playoff ticket. Highly impressive in the North Division playoff game, setting a modern USFL record for yards. 23 of 38 for 370 yards and 2 touchdowns and interception. In the Panthers' overtime loss to the Maulers, added 22 yards and a rushing touchdown. So this guy played well in the USFL. Now he is going to be back with the Michigan Panthers. So Mike Nolan should be happy that he could potentially be the guy in Michigan. That was pretty good news. There was a trade also. The Bubba Bolden was traded for Elijah Holder. That was a trade that went on. Also, I think there was a QB trade. Reed Sinnott, I think, went to somewhere. I don't have that. I thought I had that up here. But there was another, or he was dropped and traded over. There's been a lot of movement with rosters and some QBs. We're trying to get that all finalized. Official word from the XFL or UFL. But there's been definitely some quarterback movements going on over the last 24 to 48 hours. So we'll have that for you as well. Some events taking place. We wanted to get in that. So the Stallions are having an exclusive Q&A event with the UFL executives. That's February 8th. So the panel will be UFL CEO Russ Brandon, EVP Daryl Johnson, and then Skip Holtz. Fans will get a chance to ask questions. So we have details of that Stallions event. That's February 8th. There is also Town Hall for the Michigan Panthers, February 10th. Same deal, but this time with Mike Nolan as the head coach. I don't see Moose Johnson's name on this event. We'll see about there. Details are on UFL News Hub. Then the DC Defenders are having their season ticket holder event February 15th. These are for season ticket holders only. Same deal, but then we've got Coach Barlow there as well. I am trying to work my way so that I will be there. So definitely come say hello. I will be at that event. My plan is to be at that event at least early. We'll see how that all plays out, but that's February 15th. And remember, a lot of these you have to sign up for. You can't just show up. That's why I'm not telling you where it is or whatever. You have to go to uflnewshub.com, check it out, and then find the event. And then some of them, I think you can show up, but a lot of them, I think you have to sign up because they just want to get a head count of who's coming. Also, something really cool is the St. Louis Battlehawks are having a hat night April 22nd at the Cardinals game. So it would be the Cardinals, I believe, against who? But so the St. Louis Cardinals announced their full schedule, including a special Battlehawks night, April 22nd. Fans attending this event can get an exclusive Battlehawks cap with tickets starting at just $19, marking a unique cross-sport collaboration. The Cardinals will be taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. So April 22nd, Battlehawks night at the ballpark. And look at that hat. I definitely want that hat. I'm down with that hat. So that was pretty cool. So, and of course, former St. Louis Battlehawks team president Kurt Hunziker was excited about that too, saying that was a goal of his in July of 2019. Some friends thought he was insane, but it clearly came to fruition. So there you have it there. That is the news and notes part of the podcast. All right, let's wrap up this show and hear from our audience. Remember, you can dial in 888-430-7692 extension 3 if you want to call into the show, or you can email podcast@uflnewshub.com. Adams up says, can a player join the UFL team if they sign an NFL futures contract? The answer is no, that they are under contract with the NFL, and then that is it. And there's been a couple guys, Alex Magoo, come to think of it, that have signed that futures contract, so they are out. They're not going to be playing in the UFL this season unless they get cut, but time is running out. Steven says, thanks for the UFL insight. Keep it coming. What do you make of the rumors the UFL will bring back 4 additional teams in either 2025 or 26? Thought is that they would bring back the USFL side New Jersey Generals, Breakers, XFL side Guardians, and moving an inactive Houston team to Canton, Ohio as the Ohio Aviators. This will result in 12 franchises. I think Philadelphia Stars and New Jersey are on. I don't think the Breakers are on anywhere. I think, and then Canton has a team, so that I think there would be 3 possibilities. Guardians also would be a possibility. I think maybe there would be your 4 to come back, and maybe even Vegas if they got things going on. But we can't even get to that part if we don't have a successful season in 2024, and that's where you guys come in. I've been preaching that. And finally, Don checking in. He says, "Could call my friend. I'll start my preseason ranking in regards to the question of the week. I'll start by confessing that I am a homeboy and would probably pick the Battlehawks as number 1 regardless of roster, but damn sure they make easy with their roster moves. So yes, the Battlehawks are my number 1 pick. I'll give you that. Coming in at number 2 is the Birmingham Stallions. They do very well with all games are home games. Let's see how they do with an unfriendly fan base. Interesting. My number 3 pick is some people refer to as America's team, the DC Defenders. That's right. They are America's team because they play in Washington, D.C. They don't have the Battlehawks QB Jordan Ta'amu anymore. Yes, I haven't heard anything about that, but it seems like not, but who knows? But Reggie Barlow did a great job in building team unity last year, and I expect he will do that again. I agree. They really beefed up their defense on the offseason. Quick rounding out the rest of the teams. He's got the Renegades at 4. Roughnecks at 5, Showboats 6, Brahmas at 7, and Michigan Panthers at 8. Next, I would love to go into a long diatribe of issues that I have with this new league, but it would be a waste of time. So I will simply ask, will there ever be a schedule? Will there ever be any sort of fan engagement? Is this year's goal to do a horrible job and then blame the fans for not supporting the league? No. He said, don't get me wrong. I love spring football. I would love to support it, but I'm currently getting nothing to support Take care, my friends. I'm listening. Don, checking in. Like I've said, it's bare bones for this season to see how things go. And then I think things will ramp up. I mean, we were talking, my wife and I, like we had already been to like a couple events with players and coaches. We were at like 3 or 4 events before the season started, and it looks like we're just getting this one, which will be right before training camp. I mean, maybe they'll bring some players in for a second one, which would be cool. But other than that, I think that, like I said, everything is bare bones for this season. This is just the first. This is the kind of the test run. If it works, we're good to go. I've even said too, and now it was interesting that the UFL website and XFL.com website all now redirect to the UFL.com. But those sites still exist, and it wouldn't shock me, and none the least, down the road, The Rock and Redbird Capital decide that they're out, and then the that would be if that were to happen, then the USFL side comes, because this would be a good business opportunity for Fox, where these other guys, they have so many other businesses, they're not concerned about it, but to have a USFL entity for Fox, but they can't compete together, so they're trying to go at it together, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's disappointing. It's not as, with the schedule and everything, but like I said, bare bones at this point. But I have a feeling if we get the rules next week, and potentially they have to drop the schedule before they haven't even announced where Houston is playing yet, which is kind of reminiscent of the Vegas Vipers. But I think all of that's going to come before they do these events starting February 9th. So that's where things are going to be at that point. And that's about it, my friends. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, email podcast at uflnewshub.com. As always, making sure I got everything. And make sure you subscribe, like the channel, subscribe. We're having more content. We've got the Newshub Fantasy updates ringing out. Worked on some navigation stuff, fixing some bugs. So that's going according to plan. The mobile app is not going according to plan. I keep submitting it to Apple, and they keep rejecting it because it's too much like the website. And I'm like, but there's not much to my website. I have a couple ideas that I'm going to try, but we're just waiting for it to get past that approval process for them. And so those are the other things that we're working on the side as we gear up towards the season, as we move closer and closer towards kickoff. But training camp is less than a month away, my friends. It's been a long, crazy road, and we'll see how things go. And we'll keep you updated on all the latest news. Enjoy the games this weekend. Baltimore Ravens, let's go. Let's go to the Super Bowl. Love to play Detroit Lions versus the Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl, with the Ravens winning the Super Bowl. But as long as the Ravens make the Super Bowl, I will be happy. We're done with the Kansas City. All right, that's it for me, folks. As always, God bless. And I don't have a question this week. Hopefully we'll get the rules so we can talk about that next week. So stay tuned to all of our social media channels as we get closer to that. That's it for me, folks. As always, God bless, and I will see you all later.